Guys, our panel is going to be in English, if it's okay for you. And the topic is very interesting. It's really very interesting. Because we are, me personally, as a, I would say like independent studio, who never raised money. And we're going to discuss how we can raise something to grow our company, to grow our games. And let me start with introduction. So I want to ask everyone here to make a quick introduction. So let's start with you.
Меня зовут Михаил, я SEO компании Beer Games. Это одна из самых старейших компаний в Украине, работает с 2002 года. Довольно большая по меркам Украины, под 90-100 человек. Занимаемся разработкой мобильных игр, в основном в casual.
One by one in English, one in Russian. I would proceed in English. My name is Tim Kogan. I represent the company which is called FinPoint. I'm director over there. FinPoint is an investment advisory company which is #1 in Ukraine. We completed deals for over $1 billion during the last 15 years. And we completed a few breakthrough transactions, like the very first private equity exit from Ukraine, the very first $1 billion transaction in this country. We've been doing many stuff related to mergers, to acquisitions, joint ventures. For since 10 years already, we represent Rothschild in Ukraine, the 200 years old investment house. And we are now advisors to the Ministry of Finance of Ukraine. We are advisors to the Naftogaz and other very important corporations here. And we hope to increase our presence in gaming industry and everything related to new economy. And we already have a few interesting transactions in process. So I would be happy to share our insights on that.
Hi. My name is Julia Palatovska. My career in games started at a company called G5, which wasn't that successful and big as it is now, years ago. And I was running our relationships with independent third-party studios that G5 published before. Then I left and I joined a venture capital fund in London called London Venture Partners that invests only in the games industry at early stage, usually pre-seed and seed. I spent 2 years with London Venture Partners, and then I moved to the Bay Area several months ago to start my own startup. It's called Dorian, as in Dorian Gray, and we are just closing our first round of financing from independent investors. Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Maciej, Burno, and I was born in Poland, but right now I stay in China, Beijing, and I represent 2 different companies. One is Hoolai Interactive, another one is Wanda Group. So quickly, Wanda Group is a major global investor. We own about 40% of the cinemas worldwide, about 700 hotels, theme parks, football teams like Atletico Madrid, movie studio like Legendary Studios, some part of Sony Studios, and of course gaming. And for the gaming, major companies that we own is Wanda Cinema Games. It's a mobile publisher in China, and Hoolai Interactive, which is major mobile publisher in China, ranked 3rd biggest last year in based on the revenue, with a headcount of around 2,000 people. So based on the investment, if you have any questions, we do anything from very, very small investment to people studios all the way to major acquisition of hundreds of people. Thank you.
I'm Pieter van der Pijl, representing Triple Dragon. We're a London-based finance firm specialized in providing financing to game developers and publishers. We provide loan financing, mostly user acquisition financing and some project financing. I mean, bit smaller scale than what Maciej is doing, but probably quite relevant for most developers.
Okay, great. So as you can see, guys, we have really broad range of different expertise here. So people from the development side to the billion-dollar investments, publishing, investment, publishing, and cash flow help you to grow the game. So let me ask you guys. So how many of you raised money for your studio? Can you raise your hand? Wow, cool. Yeah. And how many of you want to raise money? Oh, you want more? Okay, so I'll talk to him. Great. So as we can see on the gaming market, so for now it's like the total gaming market is valued over like $140 billion, and it's going to be a really hot topic for the investors. But as you can see, I believe that the majority of people here are still like small independent studios, and the path to grow to raise money is completely different. So we can talk to publisher to raise. We can talk to our families to raise some money into. So tell me a bit. What are the necessary steps? I mean, the whole steps from the idea should be really necessary for the small studios to raise something.
Я считаю, первое, в идею сейчас никто не дает денег, абсолютно никто. Дают денег в двух случаях. Либо первый случай, когда у тебя огромный успешный опыт прошлого и есть в портфолио минимум 2-3 успешных проекта, и ты предлагаешь делать проект похожего типа. Тогда могут дать денег. Второй случай – это когда у тебя уже есть проект на софт-лонче, который показывает адекватные цифры. Тогда тоже могут дать денег. В других случаях не дадут.
It's promising.
Maybe I'm not so comfortable talking about early stage investments, but I may tell you what are the basics behind all this investment boom into the gaming industry. If you would take a look at multiples at which the leading gaming industry companies traded on the stock exchanges, they are just enormous compared to other industries like oil and gas, traditional construction, energy, etc. So, for instance, I took some analytics, and the biggest companies from gaming industry are traded at the moment at 8 times revenue. That's kind of public multiple, and 27 times EBITDA. That's just crazy. For instance, standard plant located anywhere in the world, probably, producing something like, I don't know, like plates or even cars or whatever, it would cost probably less than 1 revenue and around 6 times EBITDA. So from gaming perspective, we say that it's like 27 times, so it's just crazy. And of course, it calls and facilitates investors investing in this industry at the early stage, because the higher you come, the bigger you become, the more difficult for you to make this kind of 10 times, 20 times return, and and there are some fundamental reasons for that. And of course, we all in this industry understand them. But from investors' perspective, and you should take into account that investors are like soulless individuals who don't care about anything behind their cash flows and return and everything else. So they don't have any passion to industries. They don't have any passion to people. They just want to see money on their accounts. So, well, and if you start taking investors as these like emotionless persons, it would be much easier for you to understand why they invest. So, and reasons if I may, Mr. Moderator, just a couple of things. So, of course, it's high profitability, high margins. That's kind of driver number one, and margins increase, and some changes in the distribution channels increased that margins and enabled to distribute products quicker to the customer and have quicker cash flow. Second of all, is significant growth of alternative streams of revenue. So, I mean, that you use in like 10 years ago, you could only sell discs, and this was type of your the primary type of your return. Now you can sell different types of products in game, in out of game, etc. So that's just crazy. And then steadily growing streams of revenue, traditional streams of revenue, and of course rapid audience acquisition. So more and more people are involved in gaming industry, and it means that so all these factors make this industry so hot for investors, and of course this is a very good place to be. So these are some fundamentals.
Cool.
I think that in games you can primarily raise two types of financing. One is project financing, and another one is venture capital financing. And I'm speaking primarily about early stages. I'm not touching later stages when you actually have already revenue and you can speak about potential M&A or growth financing. So if you're an early stage company, you either go for project financing or for venture capital. For project financing, you usually just raise money for certain game or certain game-related product. And you go either to publisher for this, like Wanda or G5, where I worked before, or any other. There are lots of publishers that potentially can give you money for a specific project if it suits this publisher's audience. Or you can potentially raise money from angel investors for project financing. Usually, angel investors in games had some success in games before, and they understand your project and your audience, and they are okay with some sort of revenue share or some small multiple if you sell your company eventually. If you want to go independent route without a publisher, then you should try to aim to raise venture capital. And in such case, you should raise money for your company. You should somehow strategize to become potentially, or at least prove to yourself and to your investors that you have some good chance to become the next Supercell. And your early stage investors have a chance to return about 10x or 20x at least from what they invested in you. So if they invested in you $1 million, they should somehow imagine how they can return 20 million back. Venture capital investors at early stages realize that they may easily lose the money, but they will still make this bet if you can prove that there is a chance you will be the next Supercell or potentially, I don't know, the next Playrix. Although Playrix is a little bit different path. So for venture capital, where I had more experience recently, you probably have to start your company somewhere in the West. So have incorporation in the countries that have better legal protections than Ukraine. So even if your operations are primarily in Ukraine, you have to be incorporated either in Delaware, in the United States, or in some European country. Do we have this discussion later about? Yeah. So I should not go there.
We will cover legal okay. Aspects. Yeah.
Okay,
later.
then I'm done for this question.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
I will talk about more like super early stages, like you are just a startup and you need money to finish your first game or maybe a second game. So it's a project investment. This is where you go look for mainly publisher, because most of the bank investment or angel investment not even going to bother to look at you, because you don't even have any like metrics or any numbers to show to them. Why you go to the publisher? Because we know what we're doing, we know what we're doing well, and we can help you to get from like 50% of the project, 60%. We can tell you, this game will make money, or this game just forget about it, start from new. Or we can help you, a game that just break even or losing money, we can help you make it into a very profitable game. So at this stage, how do you get to me? And basically, we judge book by a cover. So what does that mean? When you pitch to me, you want to make an amazing first impression. Usually it's a presentation. Make sure it's just blow mind. Get your artist to just design it. Don't send me some random stuff that I don't understand. If you have a game, APK for example, or test flight, make sure you send to me. If you have just APK and you want me to test it, put it on the Google Drive or anything that will not expire. Because maybe you pitch me in January, maybe I have 40 days later I will check it because we are extremely busy. We have a lot of games to go through. So you have to be patient. If you give me a download link that's expiring in the 3 days, chances are I will never see the game and I will never bother to go back to you and give you the second chance because there are thousands of people that actually need the funding for the first game. So let's say that you are right now super early stage, about 20% of the game finished. What can you give me? You should have a prototype for me to play around. And you should have a presentation of telling me what you want to go with it. And then I'll ask you, who are you? You know, like, are you having like experience before making the game? Were you working with other companies? Do you have a success story? If it's your first game, chances are you have to really finish it by yourself. If it's your second game, we are most likely to help you out. So the less experienced you are in the market, the more your own time you have to sacrifice, your own money to make the game finish. And then we'll be looking at mainly at the metrics because it's all about the trust. If you're a second game, your first game is established, okay, because your first game is published by maybe G5 or Playrix, and I want to get your second game, I'll come to you already. You don't have to come to me. And once you have a third game and fourth game, you start going to looking not just for the project investment, but for the company investment. You want something that you're thinking 5 years plan, exit plan. And this is what you're going to start talking to with the banking investments. But as a startups, I believe most of you guys are startups. Again, we judge the book by the cover. So make sure that whatever you send to me, it's like breathtaking. I mean, I just want to look at it and I'm like, oh my God, those guys spend so much time to give me the same presentation. They really care about it. So at least I can give you my 10, 20 minutes to sit down, play your game, and give you a good feedback. Good, bad. Bad feedback is constructive feedback. And once I tell you, I don't like this game because this, that, it doesn't mean you have to change it. We, as a publisher, we cannot tell you, oh, your game is bad because of that. We can point you. This will not work because, and we'll give you case studies. But if you go to the publisher and tell you, you have to entirely change the game, this is not a right partner for you because this is not the game you're trying to make. So, again, your first game, this is the difficulty. You don't have much power to negotiate. And lastly, and skip it, when I look at the first game presentation, I don't want to see only one game and you finish and you go do something else. For example, today you're making match 3 game and tomorrow you're making like a PUBG type of game or a strategy game. No, I want you to show me that you're planning to make a franchise. So basically, when you make cute characters in the game, I want you to show me that you will reuse those characters in the second game, third game, fourth game. You're trying to expand the universe because this is something extremely important for investor. When I see that, maybe I will lose money in the first game, second game, but the more I'm reusing the same assets, same IP, you get in the franchise, and that's extremely, extremely important for us as a very, very early stage investor. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to all this, maybe slightly different approach on things. I think what would be really helpful if you're looking at your first fundraising is first to have a proper think about where and from what kind of persons or companies can you raise money or should you be raising money. And I think you have to take one step back a little bit. Like don't forget publishers, but also don't forget alternatives. I mean, we do look at project finance, and we do look at very, very early stage. And we look at projects that are made by studios who are effectively doing it as a side job, part-time. And if it's your first game, that's actually, it might not be ideal, but it's certainly something you can do, and it's a way to get you going. I mean, 4 girls, 4 guys, team up. You can develop that game if you really want to. And I would suggest first think a little bit more about, okay, how are we going to get started to get to at least a concept and a prototype? Maybe then persuade some friends and family to put some money in so you can hire some external help or get some more people involved. Then talk to investors. And one thing I noticed, well, investors can be sort of like faceless, look at numbers. Well, actually, there's lots of investors who know their stuff, who are specifically from the games industry. And they're much more approachable than you think. And I would say spend time in networking, get to know them, because you can get some informal feedback at events. You can ask them, well, I'm thinking about doing this or this or this, and you'll get some insights on whether they think it's a good idea. It don't mean that you need to follow that idea, sort of like that feedback or answer. But I would say start with that, and then sort of like work backwards. Okay, how much money do we need if we want to complete it this way on our own, and how much money would we need if we can work with a publisher? Because if it's your first game, you need to be sort of like, it's doable. It's not going to be very, very easy, but you can definitely do it if you sort of like plan ahead for it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
One point, I'm not a big professional in early stage investments, but I've been in this industry for over 10 years. So if I would be you and I would be looking for financing, I would probably not even look for an external investor. I think that it's much easier to find investor among your family and friends and neighbors. I know for sure that there are in Ukraine many rich people who are looking for investments into everything related to IT, particularly in gaming industry. You should just find them. Usually those investors are sticking around some kind of UA angel organization, the network of investors in Ukraine. And I would just take my statistics saying that, guys, these companies are valued at enormous numbers. You have a chance to invest in me and maybe have an exit in 2 to 3 years perspective and make like 20 times return on your investment. Why would you open one new, and I don't know, baby stuff shop, invest in new technology, invest in gaming, invest in me, you know me. And I wouldn't even spend time, because can you imagine, as Maciej said, they receive thousands of different prototypes every day or from different companies, from different startups. But Ukrainian investors, they don't have this luxury to receiving this number of prototypes. So your competitive position against others would be much stronger, and it would be much easier to convince them to invest in you. If you require like $100,000, come on, that's the price of new Mercedes here. And you can see how many Mercedeses are cruising around. So it's easy to find these numbers in Ukraine. And I would urge you to look for investors from Ukraine, because foreign investors would bother you with all this regulation stuff, risks, how we structure, how we finance, what are your reporting approaches, etc. Ukrainian investors usually would just take a look at you and understand if they can trust you or not. And in 100% times, or more or less, it would be the most efficient approach. That's my view.
Yeah, it's right, but they will also ask you a question: do you have any assets, like the car, apartment will get if you lose, if you fail? It's a joke, but. So what we can summarize, so we will never get...
Simply don't fail.
Yeah, it's a Ukrainian type of business, simply don't fail, but it's not about gaming. It's the chances you'll fail more than comparing to other businesses. So anyway, let's summarize a bit. So we will never get raised any money if we have a pitch, right? So we need to have something, and we need to put our own investments, our own money, our own pocket money or family's money into the prototype, right? And then we'll have two different ways. So we can visit the publisher with the same pitch, with this prototype, and try to convince the publisher to publish a game, to invest into the development. And other way, if you still believe in your game and you have more money, to prepare a soft launch version, and then you can visit Pieter's office and say, hey, we have the first metrics, we have the first KPIs, and we need to scale just a bit, right? So there's different options how we can scale. Actually, Julia, I have a question to you. So you recently started your own company, Dorian, right? And can you tell us a bit, how was your first steps? How did you convince the investor to raise to give you money, and what did you promise? I believe that you smiled, but what was there?
Smiles do not work.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So, and by the way, for this comment, you will get in trouble elsewhere.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
In the Bay Area. Don't do this outside of Ukraine. I guess it's very fresh. So we're just closing our first round, and we're making our first steps. I think one point is it's just way easier to raise venture capital money in the Bay Area, especially when you're located there. It's incomparable to any other place in the world, even like London or Western Europe. It's just harder in Western Europe and easier in the Bay Area. So the first steps, I guess, my biggest point for this talk is that you need to understand what you want to become and have your strategy from day one, especially if you want to raise money. And in my experience, most of the teams have this trouble that they do not really know what they want to be when they start, and therefore they cannot communicate what they want to be. So, Igor, may I ask you, would you agree that you are running a lifestyle business?
Yes, I do.
So this is I said there is project financing, there is venture capital financing, and there is lifestyle business, where you actually start somehow, achieve some success, and then you continue funding yourself. And most of the studios that we worked with when I was at G5, they were actually sort of lifestyle businesses, and some of them had more or less success. So if you want to run a lifestyle business, you probably do not have to answer this question, what do you want to be? You can just start doing this. But if you want to be a venture-funded company, like some people here do, and want to raise venture capital like Dorian did, you need to be clear what your strategy is for the next few years. Most of the funds expect you to exit in the 5-7 years time frame from the start, from your first investment. So you have to explain how you can achieve this in 5 to 7 years time frame, and you also have to demonstrate any similar businesses that somehow achieved the successful 10 to 20x business exit in your category, whatever it is. It might be you compare yourself to Supercell. It might be you start some new game platform, such as, for example, Facebook or WeChat games right now, messenger games. So you have to be able to explain what your strategy is in the next few years, and this is what we did at Dorian. So we innovate in a fairly new games category, and I have managed to build this strategy. I spent actually several months just doing R&D by myself, trying to understand what we want to be, and I had this very vague idea of what I want to achieve. And then once I managed to shape this strategy more or less and understood what the steps are to my big goal, I found a team that can help me realize this. And then this team started working together just 2-3 months ago. We created a working prototype so we innovate in design. And we just kind of started pushing the boundaries of design, of what exists already, to prove that our strategy is doable. And I took a pitch deck. Luckily, I saw hundreds of those when I was working at LVP. So it definitely helped that I actually had this pitch deck building experience. And then we took our prototype and started going to investors. And for this, of course, to achieve investors, especially Western investors, it helps to network. It helps to find investors that had success in your space. And the best place for this is crunchbase.com. This is where you can find the companies that are similar to yours and see which investors invested in this company at different stages. So I definitely recommend to address angels or seed investors who had success in something similar, because they will understand what you're doing better. Because if someone invests only in fintech companies and then you come to them with games, there is basically no chance they will speak to you. So
look at Tim. He is here from. I look at his profile, and they have investments in the financial companies. They have investments in food and agriculture. They have radio stations, investments, and no gaming, but still here. And he has actually $1 billion to invest. So he's looking for new
But this
areas.
is not early stage, right? So
Right, but I mean, so if you look at the different VC companies, and if you don't find the gaming, it doesn't matter. It doesn't that they are not interested in the gaming sector, right?
Very unlikely. Games are very sophisticated business to run right now because you have art, you have analytics and business part, you have technology. Most businesses have usually a business part and analytics and technology. But games have this huge variable, art, creative part, which makes it much less predictable. And for most investors, it's harder to understand because of the creative part.
Okay.
May I support Julia? I agree that at later stages you become like agnostic to industry. You don't care. You just take a look at the return, like I said before. But you know what we see that at seed investment and then like round A, investors tend to become more specialized in terms of the specific industry: fintech, medtech, agri-tech, enterprise management. Like we said, gaming, cybersecurity, etc. That's for sure. But I wouldn't claim that it's like no chance. Chances are always there.
Yes, but
you may always try. And in my career, I had so many unpredictable transactions happening when you turn to someone who, from his profile, would never invest, let's say, in seaports. But eventually they do, because papa of someone was a sailor and he always wanted to have a port. So it happens all the time.
it's just harder. Like when you want to raise money for a business that doesn't have any proof points and revenue and great metrics, or some metrics but they're not impressive, and you go to an investor that doesn't have any experience, you just make yourself, your life harder. You still have, of course, some chance, some magic, but it's just harder.
Okay, so let's move further with like, in order to find the investor, we need to look at their profile, and especially it depends on what the stage you are. If you are in the seed investor, if you're looking for seed investments, then go for team, right? If you are $100 million company, definitely you have to go there. So let me ask a different question in terms of pitches, because I found out that in both ways, like in the publisher perspective and the VC perspective, this first moment, the first impression of your pitch and the game is very, very important. So for the publishing side, I know that the game is very important to play, the feeling, to understanding how it's going to be, how it's going to be monetized. But in the general, you said that you have like hundreds of different people who to pitch you, right? What the pitch should be to take your attention?
Excuse me, losing my voice. So all right. Basically, on the pitch, before I start on the pitch, I will want to agree with Pieter about one thing. In gaming industry, it's unlike any other industry. You will see a lot of people actually willing to help you success. And I do in movies industry as well. We just bought a major thousands of people studio, and what we see often that somebody come to me and pitch the game to me, and I say, "I'm sorry, this is not the right product for me." And the moment they ask me, "Maciej, can you help me?" Oh, my human nature opens up, and I'll say, "I know some people that can help you out." So networking is really, really important, because at the end of the day, we all human. So pitch, I mean, you send me cold pitch is because you don't know me. If you try to get to know me first, and I get to know you as well, for example, at the conferences, here or maybe next month, the Pocket Gamer Connect, I will start to see you like maybe every 1-2 months. We become close to each other. So a pitch, not only you get much more attention from me because I already know you, because you're not just like some blank name, I don't know. It's the face in front of me. And it becomes much more emotional. In gaming industry, we really want to help. So let me just tell you a very quick story what's happened last year. It was a Chinese studio that was going from publisher to publisher, and everybody rejected them. At least like 50 rejections. And the guy came to me and said, "Maciej, I want to jump out from the building. I don't know what to do. I have the team was only 6 people, and he said, I have no more money to pay for the salary. I don't know what to do." And I look at the game, and I told him, "Look, I talked to my boss. There's no money in this right now." We gave them $10,000. And what we also did is I set up for 3 nights straight, trying visualize what this game could be, and came up with the monetization options. I came up with the different strategy, how we could make and fix the game. And those guys actually pulled it off. Why? Because, again, people to people. So when I'm looking not just at the pitch, but I want to know who I'm working with. If your game is not good, but can I trust you can fix it the way we think it's going to be profitable? This is, at that time, we are willing to give you some chance. So $10,000 is very small money in China, extremely small. Average salaries in China is raising is about a few $1,000 a month already in major city. So it couldn't cover him for maybe 2 weeks even. But last year, after 8 months of development, the game became top grossing in the adventure category and second top grossing for RPG. Out of nowhere, nobody wanted, because those guys asked for help. So as a pitch, when we're talking about a pitch, cold pitch, if I expect, go on the LinkedIn, find my name, and add me, and you will see there's a link to the Google Forms. And you just press the links, and there will be a bunch of questions for you to fill up. So he asks you, if you have a matrix, you can fill up, or you can skip it if you don't have it. Presentation, 2 minutes video on YouTube, game build, some information about companies, stuff like this. So, because most of the developers really don't know how to make a pitch, actually we're trying to help you. We make the forms for you. Just fill up the blank, 5 minutes, done. But there's a really optional presentation. If you don't put the presentation in, and I don't know you, chances are it's No chance, because you didn't even spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes to just upload the presentation. Why would I spend my 5 minutes? But if you know me or somebody recommend me your game, you are facing in front of me. So for the pitch, again, is it possible for the franchise? Tell me how much money do you need? What's your expectation? Tell me what's your forecast on the game? Where you want to? What's your target audience? Let me know that you understand what you're doing, especially if it's your first game. Usually people say, "Oh, what's the investment?" They say negotiable. And when I see negotiable, I'm like, okay, if it's your fifth, sixth game and it's like something big, yeah, I'll fly to you and we negotiate. If it's your first game, I don't know who you are. Negotiable, that means, okay, next game. Put it out. You don't have to say like, okay, I need 100,000 today. Give me a range so I can work with. Because the moment I go to my CEO, the first question he asks, how much money? And I say, I don't know. And if I say I don't know, then he's like, then why are you wasting my time, you know? And me, as the guy that help you get the bridge between my boss and you know, I want to help you. I will sit night and day if I believe in your project to help you fix it. Why? Because it's super important for me. And if we get the connection, personal connection here with the right pitch, I can't do it, my boss doesn't want it, okay, I will transfer you to a couple publishers. And I see some couple publishers here, sitting here, and they're all my friends. And trust me, we're helping each other, even competition. For example, next year, I will publish Tencent game overseas. And we give Tencent our game to publish. We work like that because it's a game industry. It's like anything else. This year we will publish Plarium game. This year we will publish Fingersoft game. We all working together, big guys, small guys.
Julia, what was your main bullet points in the pitch? So we can understand that it's going to be like very creative, and I believe that we all need to have different type of pitches, because if we target for the publisher, it's a one type. If we talk to a VC fund, it's a different type, and especially if like a seed fund. If we talk to $1 billion, it's going to be a bit different and at a different level, right? So what about you? Just a few points about the pitch you've created for Dorian. A few points.
I guess one of the most important things at this stage is the team. So you explain what you want to build, what's the approximately final goal, because of course things change. So that's our strategy. For example, let's say, I'm giving some other example, not ours. Let's say we want to be a #1 company in voice games. Voice assistants are on the rise, and in several years we want to be #1 in voice games. You should demonstrate what makes you #1 in voice games. What do you think the thesis is? Of course, it's an assumption, but you should rationalize this assumption. And then you should demonstrate that your team is potentially the best in the world, or one of the best in the world, to execute against this strategy. So a team is probably one of the most important things. You have to have key people in place. So usually, as we discussed, there is a technical side, there is a creative side, and potentially analytical and business side. Ideally, all of them should be somehow covered. This helps a lot in your team. And then, you should be able to prove that you know your stuff. And it's not, I guess it's not a very straightforward process, because ideally you should try to arrange as many meetings with investors as possible within a short period of time, or relatively short period of time, and iterate your pitch based on your feedback, because you're never great at your first pitch, and it's fine. you become better at explaining your product to outsiders. Ideally, you should be able to explain it as simply as to your grandmother, so that even your grandmother understands it and understands the potential, and also believes that you are really good to realize this potential.
Okay, and that's a good question for you, Mr. Yes, just quick question. So, how many times did you fail when you pitched to a VC? Just you can tell or show.
Yeah, I guess we failed like 50 times, and I guess we had really good conversion rate.
Yeah. Okay, so as we can see, you'll never have to stop, and this is actually like a main rule for the startups. If you fail, that's actually one more. It's a step to move forward. It's a step to improve your pitch, improve your probably the product, right? So let's quickly discuss the type of investments. We actually started to cover this. It's like we have the publishing, we have VC funds. So let's say like we have a game running, right? What type of non-pitch, but what type of data will you require from developers to get money for?
Yeah, so we would ideally look at soft launch data. So you've got a game, it's in soft launch stage, it's not quite there yet, but at least you've got reasonably reliable metrics. And so you should be sort of like testing your monetization. You have figured out what you think your LTV is going to look like, how your LTV curve looks like. You probably have done a little bit of sort of like test UA during your soft launch. Those will not always be as reliable. But once you have that, that's sort of like the point in time, ideally, to engage with lenders who would lend for user acquisition. But yes, you could even sort of like approach lenders like us a little bit earlier, because if we really like a project, we'll come in a little bit earlier and we'll sort of like take a bit more risk and look less at metrics if we like the team, if we like the product.
Okay, can you tell us a bit like what type of like real numbers you are requiring from the developers, like retention, conversion rates, monetization, CPIs, anything that can help our audience?
With UA lending, really LTV and CPI are the key numbers. Yes, it's helpful to have retention numbers, but retention numbers will be hugely different across genres. So it would be a little bit silly to focus just on retention numbers, although if you have them, give them to us, because it will give us an indication if this is an RPG and it's at a certain level, that doesn't match up with data that we've seen from other companies. But LTV and CPI is the key metric for us.
Okay. Do you want to add something? No? Yeah?
I may tell a bit more at the M&A market. First of all, I think you may enter, it's a little bit different when you talk to seed investor, venture investor, and when you talk to M&A market. M&A market, it means that you extend the range of those who may invest in your business and who have deep pockets. So you may talk to strategic investors, basically those companies who operate within this industry and invest the most. You may talk to private equity funds who to provide direct investments, and they act in a different manner. And financial institutions, international financial institutions, always happy to provide financing to these businesses. You have to verse at least, I would say, $20 million, given that current market valuation for non-public companies like 11 times EBITDA or 10 times EBITDA, let's put it easier. So you don't need to have at least $2 million of EBITDA. EBITDA is basically your operational profit. Second of all, but this is where, numbers end. Of course, you should demonstrate appealing growth so that your revenue is growing at least by 20 or 30% a year. And but I would say that you should pay much more attention to the market. First of all, what is your play field? What is your competitive position? How do you expect your competitors to play, to act during the next years? What is your competitive war budget? Because you understand that a lot of money comes to your market, and you may lose simply because someone may spend more. And this is very important. Second of all, and you should have a very solid plan on how you're going to win in a competitive war. So when it comes to M&A, it's much more about competition. It's more about your strategy against your competitors, how you're going to improve your product to make it better for customers, and how you fight against competitors. You just need to have operational plan. You need to understand very well how you're going to invest money you're going to raise. It should be divided like this is for product enhancement, this is for customer acquisition, this is for competitive war and marketing. You may also consider acquiring someone as well to make like roll-up strategy, just to pump up your business by adding more smaller businesses to your vehicle, and this is quite typical way of becoming big. Second of all, it's management. I mean, usually people from your industry are very tech-savvy, talented, artists, etc. But from business administration point of view, they're just kids. And you need someone who is prepared to stand business plan, who is able to demonstrate key numbers, strategy, all that stuff related how to make business efficient. So you need to bring someone who is not tech savvy, but business savvy, commercially savvy. And this is very important. And it may be a person from FMCG industry, it may be someone from logistics, whatever, but someone who knows how all these things running inside the business as an organism. And third thing you should take attention to is like how you manage your risks. Managing your risks starts from transparent financials, how you see your metrics, how sure you are in your numbers. If you're audited or not, at a certain point of time, it makes sense to turn to audit company and to make sure that your statements are confirmed. How you legally structured, do you have a matrix of risks, internal, external, related to product, etc., technology, etc. So these three areas: first, strategy, and first of all, competitive strategy. Second of all, management, from business administration point of view. And third thing is risk management, how you assess your risks, how you manage them, how you try to mitigate them. That's kind of number one.
Great. Maciej, you wanted to tell something?
So one more thing about LTV versus CPI. Imagine your LTV is $2 and CPI is $3. So in your mind, you're losing money. And a lot of developers just give up right now. They just say, I don't want to bother with investment. The game, losing money, it's game over. But most of the developers making a very big mistake. If you come to the publisher for investment, we want to know what your user acquisition strategy is. Because I will look at your landing page. Can I improve your ASO? If I can, maybe 33%. I change the icons, I change the banners, I get your conversion rate much higher. And the $3 CPI becomes 2. Now, I will look at your banner. What's your Facebook CPI? For example, it was 3, now it's become 2. What's your previous CTR? If it's like banner below 1% or video much lower, I will look as a publisher, can we fix it? Can we double it? And suddenly, it becomes $1 CPI. But your LTV is $2. A lot of the startups, you see you spending more money than you make money, you give up. But sometimes you still need to have a second personal opinion to take a look, expert UA monetization. And maybe what you don't see, we can see. Maybe there's a potential. So the metrics are very important, but it doesn't tell the whole story. show me the whole story if you can. If you did a UA, for example, every day 200 installs, for example, in US, show me what banners you use, show me the CDR, show me the your store conversion in iOS or Apple. It's not gonna work with every publisher, but some will, because some will feel like this is an opportunity to actually make some good profit.
Michael, the same question to you, because you are the game developer, right? So you know, and you invest in your own games. So what the numbers should be? What's a good number should be to invest into?
Что нужно лично мне, чтобы инвестировать?
Not exactly. Какие ты ожидаешь показатели?
Я понял, все понял. Смотри, в первую очередь retention, я разделяю на разные этапы. Первый этап – это retention, когда продукт достиг требуемых KPI по retention. Второй этап – это ROI, когда продукт достиг нужных требований по монетизации. И третий этап, очень важный, который 90% молодых разработчиков забывает, это масштабируемость трафика. Они приходят, говорят, вот у нас такой ретеншн, вот мы полили трафик с Америки качественный, вот у нас ROI очень хороший, вот давайте миллионы долларов. А оказывается, что объемы трафика, которые показывают хорошие ROI, ну максимум на $20 тысяч в месяц. И это даже не окупает команду. А если мы рассмотрим на серьезных объемах, там, $1 миллион, 2, то трафик не окупается, ретеншн просаживается у них и так далее. Поэтому по 3 пунктам: ретеншн, ROI и, по-моему, масштабированность трафика. Вот это главные 3 пункта, на которые я смотрю. Также очень важно, игра подходит под все рынки или нет. Нужно понимать, что есть огромный рынок Америки, огромный рынок Европы и третий рынок азиатский, который вроде бы раньше был полностью закрыт, но сейчас все больше и больше разработчиков, которые на азиатском рынке зарабатывают очень приличные деньги.
Okay, I will just translate a bit. So Michael said he wants to invest and buy Wanda Group. He has $2 million if you're interested in. I'm joking. Look, the good question about the cultural difference. So we started to talk about the Ukrainian, US, UK, and Asian markets. What the cultural difference in investments can be, and what we need to understand in terms of talk to Ukrainian investors, US, UK investors, and Asian investors.
Start with me, yeah? Okay, so I talk about Asian investors, especially like Japan, China, to some case Koreans. They will never say no. I mean, you go to the meeting, it will be like everything, you feel okay, you feel like happy, but you never hear back from them. It's a culture of faith, a culture of, in Chinese we say, 面子. It's about, I don't want you to feel bad, so I'm not gonna reject you right now. But if you hear something like, oh, we need to discuss it and we'll come back to you later, or like you hear it, oh, we still need more time, something, more chances are we're not interested. We just, in the Asian culture, we just can't really say like no. There are some, like if you are in Singapore and Hong Kong, yeah, it's a little different. They are very international. But if you're still talking with Asian companies like Japan, Korea, China, especially China, it's tough to get a no. I know for the developers, the faster you get a no, it's the better, because you can move on. You know, you don't have a hopes like, oh, maybe let's wait a couple days, because you don't have time to wait. So sometimes getting the quick rejection is important. And with the Asian investors, usually you will never know what's going to happen. So that's going to be a difficulty, different cultures. If you think about what's the most popular and successful Chinese company that actually bring the Chinese overseas games to China, think about it, most of them are run by foreign business development directors or managers. That is, my good friend Tom is, he's a Dutch guy, and he's the president of the mobile section. iDream Sky, they're really good. Again, it was run by foreign guys. Tencent, till recently, they didn't have foreign guys, but now they do, and they're picking up a lot of games, but it's totally different strategy. They go after already 100% successful product, yeah. So why we here? Because we're trying to cross the bridge, and if you're talking with the Asian people that are Asian, expect that if you don't get the answer, it's usually no. You can move on. Yeah, but always try to pitch in like, hey, can you update me? Can you update? If they don't reply or say, oh, we're sorry, we are busy, you know it's time to move on. Yeah.
Okay, Julia, maybe you can tell about the US experience, the culture difference.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say what is similar between US and UK investors. They would be afraid to invest in a team that is located in former, in CIS countries. If the company is incorporated here and all of the founders are here, they might be okay, and there are multiple cases when founders relocate to a country with a stronger legal framework and enforceable laws, but still have a big part of the operation here. This they can understand because it saves costs. But at least they can deal with the founders that are closer and reachable, literally, and also got incorporated in their safer country politically and legally. What the difference is between UK and the rest of Europe and US is that still it's a generalization, but European investors are still much more conservative and risk-averse compared to US investors. So your European investors are more likely to push you to get to profits. So basically make and save money and be profitable company. Your American investors are much more likely to question if you are capable to grow, if you have profits. So they don't, the notion is that if you make profits in the US, you do not know how to grow. So all of these companies, like, for example, Uber, Lyft, they're still losing money, but they grow fast. And you're much more likely to be pushed, it depends, of course, on what you do, but you're much more likely to be pushed to grow faster rather than to achieve profits. Europeans are more conservative about it.
Tim?
Well, I might, as always, try to put it from a little bit different perspective. I would say that all cultural differences are, well, not so important when you understand the other side's strategy. They would fit your culture, and it's always easy to find some kind of understanding with anyone in this world, because everyone loves their kids, everyone loves and respects their parents, like good wine, good cars, etc. So it's always easy to find people. You always need to be focused on strategy and strategic reasons for a transaction with that particular side. So, of course, some kind of differences may influence the process, but if you have all the necessary prerequisites for successful transaction, it doesn't matter really. Yes, Asian investors never say no. Americans are more quick and rude, and people from Arabian countries, they usually never say yes before the final and the most important person comes and say yes and shakes your hand and see that you're a good person. And so but in general, it should be focused on strategy. And what are the key strategies for acquisitions we identified? So first of all, you should probably be a provider for audience to the potential acquirer. Second of all, you may provide like portfolio extension. So you may add some new games that would fit the matrix and some kind of blank spot in the overall profile of the company. Of course, you may bring some new expertise. You may product performance improvement, so you may add something to existing product which would enable it to run better. Acceleration of growth, improvement of communication among other players, creating multi-billion game platforms, ensuring security, and so on and so on and so on. So if you are more focused on these strategic things, much more chances to overcome all cultural distinguishes and be successful in any discussion. Just remember that all people love their kids, respect parents, like good wine, and there is always a good topic to talk about cars. So that's it.
Cool, great. So we have 5 minutes, last 5 minutes, and I want to believe that you have some questions over here.
Okay, any questions? Please raise your hands.
No questions?
So it looks like,
okay.
Yeah, we have a question here.
Hello, guys. How important is sport part of games for you to invest in this game? E-sport, you know what this means?
Yeah. So actually, I had a question about this as well, about the categories of games, like esports is
Если
growing.
я правильно понял, по киберспорту вопрос, да. Я являюсь, кроме этой компании, SEO компании Просто, игровой организации, да. И, в принципе, мы, можно сказать, владеем половиной всего маркетинга киберспортивного в СНГ. Сделать игру с нуля под киберспорт невозможно, если ты не Blizzard. И поэтому делать игру под киберспорт изначально ни в коем случае нельзя. А делать игру с элементами киберспорта, там, турнирами, ставками на свои матчи, вполне возможно, это будет работать.
Any questions?
Any questions? Yeah, I see them.
Thank you a lot for the good discussion. And I have a question about what that means about American investors. They push to grow and interest in it rather than have the profit. But all what we create, it's about the profit. So what the catch?
Because if you're profitable, you have to pay taxes. If you're growing, you can sell your stocks better. So it's. But I'm wrong.
This just means that you should demonstrate. So you should demonstrate growth as a venture-backed company, and your profits should be reinvested again. So of course, meaning that you do not post profits. You actually reinvest them to grow faster. This is what it means. Does it make sense?
It looks like yes. You have a question?
You told a lot about present, some part of game, maybe video or gameplay. What more interesting for investors? Some gameplay, part of fights, or part of story, or part of general in games?
Part of P&L or cash flow, but please.
To me?
No, it's for everyone. I think it's.
I guess it depends on the investor. So I think investors are most interested in your strategy. Like, how can you make money on this game? And if you can prove that it's potentially successful case, they will probably not really care about specific part of this game or specific genre, unless it's a strategic investor or publisher and they have certain audience. For example, they have audience like for hardcore games, then they will care to see more hardcore games. They have audience for esports games, they will care to see more esports elements. Someone will have audience for casual games, and they will prefer to see mostly casual games. But if it's an independent investor that doesn't have any strategic elements, if it's not a publisher, I think they don't really care. So, for example, what I'm doing is very casual for female audience. However, I have several esports investors, typical. So they usually invest in esports, and they make an exception for me because I proved that what I want to build makes sense. So they really did not care because it's a financial opportunity for them.
One thing, make it fun. Like, really make it fun. I mean, I want the user that when they enter my game, he come back tomorrow, day after tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Make it, game is all about fun. You know, if you don't bring that fun in your pitch, I mean, chances are I'm not that going to be interested, because people that testing the games are not the people that invest, or they are the gamers, you know. If you don't sell the game to the gamers, the gamer will not help you sell their game to their boss. Make it fun, because if your retention is good, we can fix everything. We can fix the monetization, we can fix, we can get advertisement inside, or we can do whatever. If the game is just boring, or just like, I look at it and like, I don't want to play it, it's just, I'm not going to be back tomorrow, and we're not going to believe in it.
Thank you. The question is for each speaker personally. Now, what is your basic requirements if some startups will invite you to become the mentor or advisor or first investor? So the basic criteria.
Okay. It's first of all, and this is sort of like happened sort of like literally earlier this week. Having a conversation at a networking event, and founder, she could very eloquently sort of like explain, well, I've got this idea, I'm going to do this, it's going to be great. And if you can have a normal conversation with someone about something that it might be fairly technical or complex, whether it's a game or technology, in this case it was technology, you can challenge that person and you get good answers back and a good vibe, and it sort of clicks, then yes, I would sort of like look at, okay, is this a startup I would want to help, and most of all would be able to help, otherwise not be doing it any service. Then it's something I would look at. But it's fairly informal, I'd say.
Make sure I'm the right person to talk to before you approach me, because you don't want to waste your time, you know. People are approaching like some producers or artists or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I'll take a look at your game, but it doesn't get you anywhere. What's for me the most important, I don't know. You show me the game, the pitch, I need to have a feeling. Your game has to be something in it, unique. Maybe using red skin of other game, maybe the art amazed me. Maybe you have something like new gameplay design that really catch attention, or maybe it's really, really funny, you know, like I look at the game and I just want to laugh at it, you know. And genre, like, maybe you are pitching me casual game, but I just do hardcore games. So it's very broad answer. So from me, make sure you're talking to the right person that fits your target audience. And if I am not, ask me first, am I the right person? Is it a game that is suitable to you? If not, can you help me out?
I think to become an advisor or mentor, it's probably three things. Like, I should like the team and believe in it. I should believe that I can add value easily without too much effort. There are some areas where you can easily add value, and there are some areas where you have to work a lot, and basically it's probably not worth it. And third, I should believe that I will have fun doing this.
Maybe it's not a direct answer to your question, but I think it's important to mention. Before this panel started, we had a discussion about is it possible for a company from Ukraine to raise money and to continue operating in Ukraine. I was saying that yes, Yulia saying that not. But what I just may say, Rothschild basically doesn't invest. That probably need to be highlighted. So we invest in some prime real estate in Chateau, in France, in Israel, and some real estate facilities in Paris and London, etc. But we don't invest our own money, but we have a huge variety of investors who trust us. And usually when we bring something to an investor, it comes to the top of the list from the very beginning. So usually what we bring is considered as number one, and usually there is much more trust, because if there is a Rothschild brand logo on the presentation, it means that all the preparatory work was done in the right manner. So of course I think that this is why we decided to turn this market and to raise our attention to this market, because we think that there is a huge number of good companies in Ukraine and good startups and good companies that have a good chance to become really huge. There are many samples in industries like software development and product development, etc. So it may be the same in this industry as well. But sometimes it's really difficult to communicate at the same time to your team in Ukraine and investors abroad. So bringing this kind of advisor, and we would be happy to assist you in this, would enable you to maintain your operations here. We would help you to understand how to better structure in order to address all the questions an investor may ask related to risks associated with Ukraine. And if you choose the right advisor who may bring you and who can talk to this audience in a good way, I think that you may do business wherever you place. So you may do it simply in Ukraine. Very geopolitical statement, because we spend a lot of time, having this kind of geopolitical discussions. I think that Ukraine has failed in terms of industrial epoch. So unfortunately, it would be very difficult to catch the industrial, and what we see now is happening around all the trade wars between China and US. It's kind of finalization of industrial period. And it means that it's very difficult to develop in Ukraine a physical product. Because we don't have this infrastructure, we don't have this, co-producers, we don't have this supply chain. So everything was killed after Soviet Union, and over 20 years, almost 30 years, nothing was invested in that. But we are so well positioned to become successful. I mean, Ukraine is so positioned well to become successful in everything related to software, that there is no physical delivery. There is a pure mix of talent, hard working, and luck. So, and now you have all necessary infrastructure to sit here and to enjoy your staying in Ukraine and low prices, etc. And at the same time operate globally and have investors coming from outside. You simply need to find a good partner.
So I think it was last great question. And
final question?
No, it was a great final question. And I just want to thank you, Igor.
No, thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It was, I believe it's going to be quite interesting for you to talk after that if you have any personal questions. But I've learned different interesting things, and I believe you learned as well. So thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.